Hello and welcome back everybody to 100 Days of Code with me, Lily Code. Today is day 70. Today is day 70. I mean, we are just flying with this. So thank you so much for joining me again on another episode. And I'm going to get brazen with this and say, if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe because it means the world to me and I will love you forever. So let's get into this. What I'd like to say today is I switched it up yesterday because I was making Building Max's tutorial, and basically I just want to try and learn a few other tutorials that are quicker that I can just get to the end of. I'm still planning on completing Max's one, but there's still chapters and chapters and chapters left, so I've started a new course. I've started a new course, and this course is Learn React for Modern Web Applications. Basically, I'd like to be able to recommend some smaller courses in work, so that's why I've decided to make this switch. It's not just because I love hopping all over the place, although maybe that's got to do with it as well, but really I'd like to be able to recommend some of these courses. And a 40-hour course, recommending that to someone is a bit excessive. What can they learn? What will they get out of a 5-hour course? Is it just as valuable? What are the gaps? So I'm trying to see that now and make a comparison. I've done enough of Max's course and I will still be finishing it. So we're doing Sean Wassels Learn React for Modern Web Applications. It's a full React course and we are getting stuck in. I've loved how we started off with it yesterday. What we did was we just spun up a React application. He went right from the beginning, so very, very, very good for beginners. This can be found on O'Reilly. I will add the link to this video in the description box down below, and what I'll say as well there is you get a 10-day free trial with O'Reilly and you could easily finish this course in 10 days. So again, it's a better thing to be doing to recommend to all of you. I don't necessarily like doing courses that are on a paid for platform that isn't accessible to everybody. It's not really fair. I'd prefer to be doing a course that everybody can just go on and jump on with me, like when I did the Nana with Kubernetes. But this is specifically work related. I'm learning this stuff for work. We've been given access to the O'Reilly platform in work. And I'm doing my 100 Days of Code challenge, and the best way for me to personally spend this time is to gain more skills for work. So it just wouldn't make sense to go off and do some other tutorial when this is what I was provided with. So, which is absolutely fabulous as well. I'm very, very, very happy, honoured and delighted to be in this position that I have this brilliant platform, but I would prefer to be able to share all of them with you. So this course you will be able to complete in the 10 days because it is far shorter. It's a 5-hour course. You'll definitely complete it in 10 days. So there's loads of time, start it at the weekend when you have a bit of time, get a bit of momentum going, and then you should finish it throughout the week. 2 weekends you have, so realistically, or I don't know how many weekends you have. Don't look at me for my math skills here, guys. So yes, so that's what we're at. Let's go. We're creating a new component, so gonna get into this. 3 minutes of waffle, not too bad. Right, let's go. Okay. So in our source directory here, we are going to create a new file called greeting.js. We're moving this greeting into our source file. So we'll say new file, greeting. This should be a capital G to stick with the naming convention of all the other files. .js. Greeting, where are my fingers going today? Hey, hey, hey. So greeting.js, and then we'll probably set this up as a regular arrow function component. So let's put them on ×2 speed. Okay, so he's doing it slightly different to Max, which is great because he's using the function keyword. So we're learning something new here. Greeting. I did know you could do this, but it's great to see it in action and get a bit of practice with it. So the way that Max has been doing this in all of his courses is saying const greeting, and just making this an arrow function is equal to, so these are the same. It's the ES6 way of declaring a function, and then this is the older way of declaring a function, but both things you're just declaring a function. So a React component is just a function declaration, And then your JSX code in your return statement is what you send out, and really you're just running a function when you're calling a component. So I will comment that out and add a comment here and say ES6 syntax for the above. Same thing. Declaring, and I will zoom in here because that is tiny. You must have beady eyes if you want to see what I'm writing. So ES6 syntax for the above, same thing, declaring a function. Cool. Function. Awesome. Great. So cool. And then we're just going to decide what we want to return as well in here. So first of all, we're going to copy and paste what we put in our app.js because this is what we're creating this component for. It's our greeting component. So I will cut this. Oh, yo, mamma mia, didn't mean a grazia. Okay, making up words again. Making up words again. So I'll just paste this in here now and then we can continue on. Oh, very good. So what he did there was, rather than allowing the let greeting element to be equal to this thing, he just returned this. Didn't even like add any brackets or anything. So I'm actually learning a good bit here. Like I sort of thought those curly brackets, these brackets were necessary. Like I'm sure you can add them, or now I know you don't actually have to. I wonder what the condition is. And then you don't need the semicolon. Is that correct? Oh, well then this would be a JSX. Let's see. Let's save. Greeting element is not defined. Yes, so now in our app.js we are still trying to send this out. So I'll take that out for the moment. Save. And what's going on? Okay. Greeting element. Yeah, we don't get that no more. Cool. And then what we will actually want to do, look, I'm just skipping ahead here, but I know this is probably what he's going to do. We're going to bring in our greeting and stick it out on the page there so we can see that same message. And we need to import it. So we will do that. We will import greeting. Oh, we didn't export it either. Greeting from... So first of all, we need to export it, and let's just do that because then it will help us with the autocomplete. So if you come through to our greeting component here, we can say export default greeting, and you must export the component that you have created in order to be able to use it elsewhere, and then you must import it into the component where you want to use it. So we're using it down here in our app.js file. This file isn't doing anything different than what we were currently doing in here. Our greeting, we've just moved the greeting code from yesterday, so we just have a variable. We're getting the date. We're checking if that particular date's hours is less than 12. If this is true, if this evaluates to true, then we're showing the message good morning, and in the case that it's false, we're saying good evening. So hopefully that makes sense. I did speak more on this yesterday, so I just don't want to get too caught up in chit chat because I can get carried away. So we'll import greeting here. So, and this should just be the keyword. We do not need, there we go. And it automatically completed the import for us. So now we have an error. Good evening. Ooh, it's the evening now. Yes, perfect. And yesterday I did it in the morning. So that is super. And let's just say, because this is what I wanted to test, what's the story if we remove these parentheses? I think nothing, but so let's save. Perfect, still there. And we can add a semicolon here and reload, and that doesn't show up. No. Okay, great. Yeah, because it's just a ternary. Okay, cool. Great. Okay, so Sean is letting us know that at the top of our file, if we want to use React, we do have to import React, which isn't true anymore because React now has this covered for us. So first piece of information that isn't wrong. I mean, you know, you're going to see it in a lot of files. It was right at the time of creation of this video, but I do need to make a note because if there are many other discrepancies and telling someone else that they should learn this, these are just things I'd pass on as well to say, okay, well, this bit has been updated, and maybe send on some supplementary information, because the last thing I want to do if recommending a course is confuse anybody. So, and somebody coming to this new, you know, you're going to be taking everything at face value and you won't know them little gaps yet, which I only know because I just did Max's course. So, import React. So I just, sorry guys, to make a note because it is important. Okay, and we're going to keep going. It's a very, very small thing. You will see it in a lot of legacy projects or just projects in general. It's not that it's completely removed or anything. You will still see it. It's just not necessary anymore. So now he's just importing greeting, doing what I've already done into my app.js. Perfect. Great. Yep. Super. Yeah, so all we've done is made our app more modular and more maintainable because we've separated out some of the content that's specifically related to that particular area. So cool. Cool, so now he's going into the fact that you cannot have two items side by side. So this is a ternary, so it's returning one thing or the other. So this evaluates to one line. So say if in here, rather than just saying good morning, we also wanted to add, and we do need a bracket here just to and keep all this together. So if we did, for the case that it was true, we wanted to add good morning and another paragraph saying, hope you have a great day. Hope you have a super duper day. Just great, you know, I hope you have a super duper day, guys. So now we see that we have this squiggly line, and this is telling us JSX expressions must have one parent element. And we've seen this before in Max's courses. So what this means is these two items here are being returned as the truthy value, and that's what's being returned out in the JSX code. And we have two elements that are on the same level here. They are on the same level. So in order for this to work, you need to wrap this in a parent tag. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, in a parent element. So we must wrap it in a parent element. So if we wrap both of these in a div, this will do the job for us. We've also seen in Max's course we can wrap it in a React fragment. We can wrap it in an empty fragment. You can wrap it in loads of different things. A div will show in the DOM. So there is a DOM effect there. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You can do it there, but there probably is some instances where you don't want that to be in the DOM when you get a bit more used to, you know, what that actually means, like, because to be honest, that's all I would know the effector has. I don't know much more than that. Okay, it goes in the DOM. Well, what does that mean? So to me, I don't think it's a really big deal, but then there must be some cases where it's not ideal. So you can also just pass an empty fragment like this. You can also pass a React fragment, which is built into React for this exact reason, and they need to be the same opening and closing tags. So like so. And then what you can also do is do react.fragment, which is just the same again. So react.fragment. And there you go. Perfect. And that comes from React, so you don't need this import now because we've already imported React. So there are some of the options that you can use if you want to return something that is more than one element or, you know, tag on the page, and they are side by side. They must be nested. There must be one parent element and the rest must be nested inside. So you could have as many then on this level as you want, because you have your one parent element, but you couldn't have all of those without a wrapping, something wrapping it. You need to have one thing going out basically, or one parent element. I don't know how else to say it, but hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just watching what Sean's doing here. He's just wrapped it in a div. And yeah, we also normally wrap our JSX in these parentheses when it's more than one line. Yeah, so he just said it there. If you have loads of these div elements, it can really make the DOM very cluttered. So that's the reason why you might want to use a React fragment, because your DOM is going to just have a whole load of extra divs, and that can then make it hard to traverse through it if you need to look in your inspector tools or something. So let me just show you this so you know what I'm talking about. And then also on top of that, that has a computational equivalent as well, so it needs to actually add those to the DOM. It needs to create that DOM structure, so you know it's probably slowing it down as well if you were to get really into it. So if we see here, we have our app header, then we have our image, and here's our good evening tag, which is coming from our, and where's have a super duper day. You're supposed to be telling me have a super duper day. So I don't know why that's not showing yet. Yeah, I literally have no idea. Oh, because this is in the morning. Oh yeah, we're showing the good evening, aren't we? So if I do the same down here, let me wrap these in brackets. Let me paste this down here like so. So this is going to be our falsy case if it's not the morning. If we turn out that get hours is greater than 12, then we'll say good evening, have a super duper night. And then if we save, we should see that. So perfect, now we see that. So we can see now we have good evening, and you have a super duper night in our console there. So if we instead change this to a div, we'll see that coming up as well. And that can, so see now we have this extra div, and then we have our items in there. So if we were to keep on doing this with every single component you created, rather than wrap it in a fragment, you can see how it's adding divs all over the place, computation all over the place, and just visually when you're trying to find something in your console or in your elements here in your developer tools, that you know maybe it's not going to be as easy to find as well, because you've more things to be looking at. So if we just go back there and save, you'll see that that div will disappear. So now we just have H3 and P. It just renders it directly onto the page. So brilliant. So yeah, so it leaves fragments out of the DOM completely, which we did just see. So now he's just going into his developer tools. He's explaining exactly what I've just explained. So I'm skipping ahead. And he's doing it for the evening, so I'm skipping ahead. Oh, that's useful. Yeah. So he just said there that generally when we are, so this is really valuable. Let me just get the words again. So we're looking at the export statement now. Down here we have this export default greeting, and when you're exporting something from your component, you only have one export per component, a default export. So let me just keep on listening. We generally only want to export one component per file, because you create a component that's a specific thing, you export it, you use it in a specific way, it's tightly coupled to the thing that you're creating. You create a component for that specific purpose. So he said all of the components in a React application will be the default export, most likely. The same as what we're looking at. This is exactly what we're looking at here. We have a component, it's called function. It's called greeting. It's a function declaration called greeting, sorry. And then we are exporting default greeting. So what he is saying, which is really exciting, I quite like this, we can just add the export up here, which not obviously, everything is obvious when you know how. Until you've learned how, it is not obvious. So I apologize for using the word obviously, because it's not. But we can add the export up on our function declaration instead, because all we're doing is adding an extra line down here to say export default and then the name. So this works just as well, which makes perfect sense. And if we reload, okay, so maybe he has to do another change. Oh, and because this is a named export then, because this is a named export, the way we have to import it is to put this in curly braces. So that's what we are now missing. So that's actually so helpful to know. That's a really nice little ditty that we just learned there. So great. So exporting our functions or our components as a named export. So the way here on the same line we have our function, we give it a name and we export that exact function and its name. This forces us to use the exact name when we import it, whereas if we didn't have a named import and we instead exported it from the bottom of the file, maybe you could call this whatever you like. So let's try that and see, because it's no good knowing in theory, we must see it in actuality. So we'll say my greeting and we're importing that from, so I think actually yes, this is exactly what he means. So, and then if we call this my greeting down here, the name must match up because we're trying to use that same thing. Greeting is not defined. Yes, we did update that. So no, it doesn't look like you can just call this anything you want. But basically, so I'll keep watching and see what Shaun is going to go on and say here. I'm jumping ahead because it's making sense to me. So, it's good to learn and then see what he's going to say. So far I've been right, but this time I have been wrong. So, export default. Oh, if we call this my greeting, is that where? Yeah, because we have to import the thing that we are exporting. Oh, not sure. Not really sure, to be honest there, guys. So we'll hang on and we'll let Shaun fill us in. So rather than this being my greeting, let's comment that back out. Let's export our function, our named function greeting. Let's import greeting in our object, and then let's see what Shaun is going to go on and explain about named and unnamed, or named and whatever, however else we might be able to import this, because this is new to me but very exciting. Okay, yeah, so in JavaScript we're allowed to rename default exports without explicitly doing so. So let's just see what this actually means. So yeah, so he did say then you could import it however you liked if you were exporting it down the bottom of the file. So you could say greeting, my greeting, or greeting message, or you could call it whatever you wanted, he said, but then how we would actually use that. So then you would still just use greeting down below, I think, because here you still want access to that function. You're still running the function when you declare the component like this. It's the function that you want to run. Cool. So Shaun says he always uses named exports, this second approach that we've seen, exporting it on the same line that you're declaring it on, because then you know for sure it's always going to be called greeting. And if you have a big project and you want to search for all instances of where this component might be used. You can search for greeting, and you'll always find them all because it has to stick by that name if you do it in this particular approach. So cool, great to know. Good man, Sean. Okay, so he's saying, yeah, the benefit of this is when he doesn't do it like this. So these need to be in curly brackets now because we have explicitly exported the function. So he said what he sometimes does is when he's importing something quickly, he could add two T's or he could add an EE, and maybe it's just not immediately apparent. So by doing it the second way, exporting on the same line that you're declaring, he finds that the better approach. Cool. Oh, great. So now he's going on to say normally he always uses arrow functions, because that was my next question. I was going to check, well, can we still do this with this approach, the approach that we've seen Max use, which is the ES6 way of using an arrow function, and he's just after saying we can and that he's going to show us. So that's great. Great, so it's literally as simple as turning this into an arrow function. So you say export const greeting equals function that we want to run, bada bing bada boom baby, and then we save and let's reload. And we failed to call. Oh no, there we go. Great. So sometimes the localhost just hangs up on previous changes, I find, with React. So let's continue. I think it looks nicer too. He just said it looks nicer, and I agree. Maybe just because I'm used to it now, because this is how Max has taught me. So really personal preference, they both work. What? That's mind-blowing. So he also says we can drop a few bits here, so that's exciting. It's chilly here. Okay. And in the case where the body of our component is only one statement, which here it is, we have return is morning, which is a statement that is a ternary operator that's either returning a truthy value or a falsy value based off this boolean, which is being evaluated based off this statement. So we do only have one statement being returned, a ternary statement. So, and the body of our component does not contain any logic that becomes before the return statement. So he said the body of our component, so in here, doesn't contain any logic before the return statement. So what's this then? Just a variable declaration. It's not actually logic. So when the body of our component is only one statement, it doesn't return any logic before the return statement. Yes, so nothing is being returned here. We're just evaluating something. Okay. Then we can drop the curly braces around the function body. This is wild. Well, it's not really. It's just, again, it's ES6 functions. So JavaScript ES6 functions. It's not that wild, but it just looks wild. It feels wild. And then we can get rid of this. Then we get rid of the return, and then we, yeah, and then we get rid of the assigning as well to his morning. Okay. And remove both curly braces. Okay. But he still has these braces. Oh, I removed the wrong braces. Okay, so we still do need our function braces. but we can get rid of our regular curly braces. What? And remove both curly braces. What curly braces is he? Yeah, he literally is talking about these curly braces. So we can remove them. We need this one back. Aha, yeah, he did get rid of the semicolon. I thought that was the reason why it was failing, but I just still thought he had it in. And look at that. That actually works. That's insane. Well, it's not really. Like, this is standard JavaScript annotation. You know, you will see this. This is JavaScript, but I mean, seems a bit mind-blowing, you know? So cool. I want to save this. This is, what would we call this? This is a function. Minimal function with no curly braces that returns one statement. And I think it's important to say it's an arrow function, because you can only do this with an arrow function setup, as far as I know, when you have it in this type of a flow. And I'm like 99% sure of that, because this new reduced function declaration came with the addition of ES6 and came with the addition of these arrow functions. So it's only with this type of a setup that you can do the more minimal function declarations. Before, we just used to say function, declare the name of the function, and run your function with your curly parentheses, and then open your function and say what you want it to run in your curly brackets. And that was just the way you declared a function before. So this is all new additions off the basis of the arrow function. The changes came at the same time, so it does need to be this type of a function to do this type of a return on a single statement in your JSX code. Shing, cool, we're getting somewhere. I think this is really valuable. I'm loving this course, actually. Let's see how we get on by the end of it, and if we cover all the core concepts that I've managed to do so far, Max's, this is the course I would be recommending. And still recommending Max's one to everybody that has access to O'Reilly, because, you know, it's just really long. You're not going to get through it in a 10-day free trial. Yeah, so he just said this is just modern ES6 syntax. This is just learning about the ins and outs of arrow functions in ES6 syntax, which is just JavaScript code. So yes, exactly, as I was saying, brilliant. And ES6 is used very heavily in React, and yeah, Shaun has more content on JavaScript and ES6, so, and I'm actually really enjoying his teaching style, so recommend looking up Sean Wassell. All links will be in the description box down below. And I have this course found on O'Reilly, but he just said there that it can be found on Pearson. So he must have his content on Pearson and O'Reilly, and I'll try and look for some totally free courses for you guys as well, and see where else he does courses and add them in the description box down below, because, you know, you don't need... I got started with nothing when I started coding. You don't need to spend a load of money. You do need a laptop. You can get cheap laptops from second-hand suppliers. That's where I got my laptop, the one I'm using right now. This is a second-hand laptop. So this is a second-hand microphone. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to be getting top of the range, big things. You really don't. You can manage with small things. You know, so anybody can get involved, and most people even have a mobile phone in today's day and age, and you must have a mobile phone maybe, or a laptop if you're watching this video. So Another thing I'll say is there's even apps you can download for free on the App Store that teach you how to code and teach you some of the syntax and understanding some of the things that you need to get through in coding if you only have a mobile phone. So this is a skill that anybody can learn. You do need technology to be able to do it, but your technology doesn't have to be anything special. So keep that in mind as well. You know, this isn't, you don't need big things to be able to do this. Don't think, oh, I can't do this because I don't have a Mac, or I don't have, you know, a fancy computer. My computer was secondhand. It was cheap. Yeah, you know, so was this microphone. So you can get started with anything, guys. Just get started and learn this skill. It's very valuable. That would be my advice, okay? And just my personal opinion and advice. Obviously, do whatever makes you happy. So thank you for listening to me. Cool, so he actually cut it down even more. So if we see here, our second paragraph is a duplication. We just have hope you have a super duper day, and we have that twice. Well, we have day and night here. He had the exact same message duplicated, so I'll just make them the same message for the purposes of displaying, or, you know, my dad just came up to offer me some fish and chips, so that was quite a nice offer, but I said, I'm recording, enjoy. But yeah, lovely. You know, who doesn't want to be offered fish and chips? It's a very Irish thing, by the way. But yeah, so we'll just continue on here. So what we're going to do is continue with this component. I want to save this, so I'm going to just copy this and then go back until we stop messing around with those, with this, because we need it back in the format we had it before, like this. Brilliant. And then down here, I'm just going to save my second version of this file and comment this out, because I think that's so valuable to just like have that there. And I'll move this down here as well, because these are just comments. So I'll say comment 1 and comment 2, just to sort of remember what on earth was going on down here. So perfect. Use your comments, guys. They're really helpful. And this definitely needs to be commented out, because we will be having errors if we have that twice there. So perfect. So we're exporting our default component here called greeting, and what Shaun has done is said that we can see that there's some duplication here. We have is morning is testing whether or not it's morning, it's a boolean, and then we have good morning and good evening, and we have the duplication of have a super duper day. In both instances, he actually said you have 5 new messages. I just made up my own thing. I went ahead, and then his message like wasn't really important to change it, so I just left it as it was. So we can create a new variable here, and we'll say let greeting header equal is morning. Perfect. And then here we'll have our ternary, so we'll say H3 good morning, and otherwise, so let's duplicate this and just change this to the dot because it's a ternary. So you have your question mark truthy case dot falsy case, and this will be good evening. So based on what the first thing that you pass through evaluates to, whether it be true or false. So here's good evening. Don't feel like just changing that one letter, so I'll copy and paste. And then what we can do down here, very handy, is instead return a JSX fragment, so we can get rid of all of this. Look at how clean this is going to be. I mean, I'm actually loving this course, do you know that? Because I'm already just like, I feel good about this course, definitely. So we'll just move this in because that's where I'd like to see it personally. And then we just want to return our greeting header. And underneath, we just want to add a paragraph tag, which is going to say, have a great day. and this should be in a parentheses. Our whole return JSX statement should be in parentheses because it's spanning more than one line. So like so, and then if we save, go back to our page, should be the exact same. So look at that, guys, you know, that's brilliant because we've really cut down the code there. So very, very lean, mean, machine, me likey, the machine. So absolutely great. We're on to the next video as well. So now we're going to pass props into the components. So valuable. You're using this all the time. Can be a little tricky to pick up at first, but you know, you'll get it soon enough, and just keep practicing. There's loads of people out there teaching this stuff, so there's loads of resources for you to find if you're at that stage in your learning. Cool. So I'm just listening, but I just need a stretch as well. As I tell you guys, when you're sitting at a desk all day, stretch, you know, we need to. So get a stretch in, get some movement in. It's okay. Cool. So what he's doing here in order to show us how to use props is, in our greeting, when we want to pass props into the greeting, we just literally name them when we declare the component. So here we can say name is equal to a string, and the string is going to be Lilly code because that's me. So Lilly code, and this should be inside of both of these quotes. And then we also want to pass another prop because why not? So number of messages. We never even said that messages thing. So number of messages. Maybe I'll change the thing inside just so that makes more sense. And how he has passed this is in the object notation. And we're going to pass the value 5. So perfect. So we're passing a name of Lilly code and number of messages 5. And then back here in the greeting we'll say you have messages instead of have a great day, because this is what Shaun has said, and now we're actually tying this together. So let's stick with it. So we're passing in a name and a number of messages prop within our props here. So in order to actually use these props and accept them, we must declare them. So we say props are going to come in. And then just to have a look and see what's going on, we can console log this out, and that'll just give us an indication of what this is. So console log, and we're going to console log out them props. So perfecto. And I always like to add a string just so I can properly see exactly what's going on there. So I add the same thing within a string. You can even add some arrows if you want, a comma, and then you must separate your string and the thing you're trying to send out into the console with a comma, and save. And then if we go back to our application here, if we open this up, if I make my console slightly bigger, me console, yes, like so, and reload the page, we should see this come out into the console. So if we go to our console here you can see props. That's the string that I passed in the quotes, and then we have what the props actually are. So it's an object with two things in it. We have a name property and a number of messages property. So this can now be accessed from within our component. So the way we would access this is like any other object. So when you get an object, the name of this object here, well, that's not the name, that's just a string we printed. This object is just an object. It doesn't seem to have a name, but it has two properties within it, name and number of messages. So to access something within an object, you use the dot notation, or you can use square brackets with quotes. Both have different uses. The dot normally always works, but sometimes if it doesn't, using the square and the brackets can be a good approach. So I'll show you both now. So basically, this whole object coming into this component has now been named props. Okay, So this has now been named props. So then we can actually use this. So down here in our return statement, we can say greeting header. How is he going to put two of these together? I should know this, but like it's not immediately coming to me. So let's just see if this works. So then we can say props dot name, because we have name and number of messages. So then here in the number of messages in between these two paragraph tags, we can also do another one of these. So this is just sending the value of the thing that we put in here out onto the screen. So we can say props dot number of messages. So let me just copy exactly how we said it, just to be sure, all of my fellow coders. And then if we save and take another little look, so we can see we have Lily code here, and then we see you have messages 5. So what we can do instead is actually move this in between the sentence here, so it makes a bit more sense. You have 5 messages should display now. So let's see how that looks. You have 5 messages. Brilliant. So perfect. We're getting somewhere. Great. So I'm going to just listen to Shaun and then use some of, like, make sure I'm using the right terminology, because I was just like, yeah, put this here, but you know. Okay, so what we're doing when we do this is inserting the value of a variable. So our variable is, in this case, greetings header, which is this. In this case, it's props.name. So we're inserting the value of a variable. That makes perfect sense, hopefully. And how he actually did it as well was, rather than putting it down here side by side with our greetings header, he put it up into the return statement of the message, which makes more sense. So we can put it up here too, like this, and then we'll have good evening, good morning to whoever's name, and then you have 5 messages. So let's take another look at that. There we go. Good evening, Lily code. You have 5 messages. Let me pick up my phone. Okay, that's great. Love it. I'm really enjoying this. Do you know that? I'm just really liking this course. It has a good pace. I'm learning a lot, or at least, you know, maybe it's just because I already know all this stuff. I like when things flow, you know, when you hit brick walls, you're sort of like, So, but then that's part and parcel of it, guys. And in the beginning, it used to happen to me a lot. You just have to persevere. So don't be hard on yourselves. Get out and take a walk if you're hitting brick walls, if you're getting errors that you don't understand. You just have to push on through that. It's not always the most enjoyable, but the rewards will come. It'll pay off. The value will be there. So just stick with it, guys. You know, I was there too. You've seen me in my 100 days. There's days where I'm still there, you know. It doesn't just go away. So just keep at it. And then you get days like this where you're like, woohoo, everything works. This is going great. I understand everything. Woohoo, you know, but I'm revisiting basic React stuff. So once I go back and start getting into the more heavy nitty gritty stuff, I'll probably have some stuck days and you'll see me, I don't really know what's going on here. So both are okay. Both are to be expected, and just be kind to yourself, you know. Cool. Just like that, Shaun. So he just said, just like that. Yeah, cool. And if we change the number back in our app.js as we're passing through in our props here, so say if we said we have 100 messages, or let's say 101, because I like Dalmatians. And if we go back to our greeting here, we don't even need to go back to our greeting, we just need to go back to our browser. We'll see that that has been reflected because we've passed through a different value for the props. It's getting picked up in our greeting already. We're picking it up here. We're showing the number of messages. So all we needed to do was change the value we passed through, and the rest all hooks up. So we're flying. Brilliant. Oh, nice. So he's going to show us something else. So he said most developers do use props when they are passing in their props, and then they just do props.name, props.number of messages. But there's another way you can do it, which is object destructuring, which this is great. I think this is how we use it in work. So I mean, I think we use both ways. I've seen both ways. Let's see what we're going to see first, but I'm sure we definitely use object destructuring, but I'm not sure if it's in this exact format, but maybe it is. So I'm just saying in professional environments, some of them, they use the object destructuring approach. So delighted we're getting to have a look, and I think this is what we're going to see right now. So let's see. Yeah. Yeah, we do use this. Yeah, we do this. Okay. So what we can do is down here, we can create another constant, which is an object, and destructure the different things that are coming in the prop. So we have name, we have comma, number of messages. Number of messages, great. And then this is equal to our props. Perfecto selecto. So then down here, all we have to do is say name and number of messages, which is a bit cleaner, you know, you don't have props dot everywhere, and this will now still work as well. So I think that's really useful, and I'll get rid of this console log. I mean, we're just learning a lot with Sean, you know. I like the flow, I like how he's doing one thing, and then this is really good, I think. Great. Okay, cool. So nothing has changed. We wouldn't expect it to. All we did was destructured our props so we could refer to them by their destructured name. So perfect. Great. Oh. Whoa, so he said what we can also do, rather than passing through the props up here, we can actually destructure the props as they come in. So it's getting more and more exciting, guys. We're just adding fuel to the fire. Cool. So then instead we can add these up here in an object rather than saying props. We can add these up here, and then what do we do? And then we just delete this. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. This is great. Very exciting. Oh, still works. Let's reload, because sometimes that's great. I love all this. That's really great. I want to save that as well. So I'm just going to go back. So this is one way. Copy that, and then let's just go back. Perfect. So comment 4. Jeannie Mac, Sean, you have us commenting here for days with all of your great advice. Oh my. I'll be here commenting until the birds come home. Tell me all about it. So we'll continue here. Haven't done many Irish accents actually. I'm always doing other countries. I mean, look, that was a terrible Irish accent. Anybody who vaguely, I don't even know where it was from, but anybody who vaguely resembles that accent would be like, that thing Lily code up there slaughtering our accents, I'll never forgive her. So yeah, sorry guys, I never said I was good at them, I just like doing them, so forgive my terrible accents, but I get a bit of a laugh out of it, so that seems okay. Just an older woman, you know, an older Irish woman who goes to mass on a Sunday and loves her spuds and her roast. Isn't that all of us actually? That's all of us. So great. Cool. So now what we're going to do is pass an object as props. So that's going to be really exciting to see as well. I think this is a great pace. Yeah, so the reason he said that he recommends doing this way just before we move on is because this allows you to easily see what your props are coming in, which is so true, you know what I mean? You've just destructured them then and there in the brackets, and you can see they're the props. There's the name of the component, there are the props. You know, bada bing, bada boom, baby. Keep it simple. Bish, bash, bosh. Love it. Great. Let's continue. Yeah. Yeah, he said in bigger React applications, this can really make a difference because straight at the top of your component, you have the props that you're using, which they're important. You know, you need to know what props to pass in when you're defining a component to display in another component. And then when you're doing something with this component, like the props coming in, you're going to use them. That's the whole reason you're passing them in. So, you know, just to be able to see, and you can see when you are using your prop in another component, you can hover over it and it tells you as well what that takes in. So super, super helpful as well. And also a colleague of mine recently showed me the best tip ever. Oh my God, can I get this to work? Like, I hope so. So he showed me that you can add a comment where you have functions. So hopefully it works here. So let's just say, this is component. No. So let's just say component. Component greeting. Returns a greeting. Just to see if this is going to work. And if not, I'll figure out exactly how this works so I can show you guys, because it was invaluable. Like, it was a great, I'd never really knew this before, you know. So if I save that and then go back to my app.js, no, so I don't have the comment. So he was using it around a function declaration and then adding the parameters of the function and the name of the function and stuff in a comment above it, explaining exactly what that function did. So then wherever you tried to use that function and you hovered on the name of the function, you had the whole comment. So you could write whatever you wanted. You could make it as descriptive as you like. You add in the parameters and stuff. So like everything related to that could be hovered, and you just get like a little snapshot, which when you're working with bigger projects and, you know, different people have different coding styles, have different function styles, have different styles altogether. I mean, generally the aim is to try and keep a uniform approach, but that doesn't always happen. And then sometimes things are just quite complex. Like, you'd be surprised at how complex some of this stuff can get, or maybe you wouldn't at all. But when I got into my first job, I was like, and then when I got into my second job, I was like, and then when I got into my third job, I was like, because I sort of knew enough by then to not sweat as much, but still have so much to learn, you know. So it's a really, really helpful tip now that I know about it, and I'm going to start implementing it. So I will figure that out and I will show you guys, because it is invaluable. So we'll continue. So now we're going to look at passing objects as props. So we're probably going to pass an object in when we are doing it up here. So let's have a look at that now. He said it's a very common task, but for some reason people tend to have issues with the syntax. So this is great. These are the pieces of information I want to know. Even that bit, because as soon as something like that is said, you're like, okay, I better pay extra attention, because maybe this has tripped me up in the past, you know. Cool. So say if we have a person object that we want to pass in, we would say person is equal to an object, like so. And then what we would do is add another set of curly brackets and then pass in the object that we want to pass. So name, Lilly code, and number of messages, 1,000,000. You know, so we can do both of those things. Yes, and this should not be in this shouldn't be in another object. It should just be equal to that because it's a number. So you just pass it like a number. Okay. And then we add an extra space here. You don't have to, but just visually, you know. So you're passing an object and you pass it within curly brackets. Okay, so the outer curly braces are the normal curly braces that we use to pass any property that isn't a string. Oh, that's news. Never really just thought about that. So yeah, that's why this is a string, and anything, this property is a string, and anything that is not a string goes into this format. That's great to know, just to actually get that piece of information, boom, hammered home, you know. Fantastic. So this is not a string, it's an object. We're passing an object. So we have our normal curly brackets to say we want to pass something that's not just a singular string, and then we just pass our object, and this is how you would define an object anyway. So actually, yeah, that's really helpful, Sean. Yeah. I'm aware. He said he just wants to make sure we're aware. I'm aware. I'm aware now. Thank you so much. I wish he could have used it. Should be able to use this. Let's give it a go, right? Because this shouldn't be difficult. So all we have to do to use this is do person dot. So let's just go back to our browser and check how we're getting on. Yeah, so okay, it's broken. That doesn't surprise me because now we're passing this object and we're expecting different props. So now if we go back to our greeting, we should be able to say we have a person object with name and number of messages. Okay, maybe I don't know how to do it in here. So let's instead say props. Let's destructure the props. Yeah, so we'll say props, then we'll destructure them. So let's console log them out first, so we can just see this person object coming in and make sure that we know what's going on. And this time I will leave out the string just so you can see the difference. So if I get rid of these and get rid of this, because they're not existing like that anymore, so we will have errors. So I'll just save that and then reload, and we should be able to see our console log statement. So no, we can't. Can we still see it? No. What's wrong? Unexpected token on line 13. So person. So props. So this is still just an object, a property. So like this isn't going to be it, but like let's just see. Because you can call your props whatever you want, you know, so no, I don't know how to accept it, like just off the bat like this. Person, so props dot person. No. Okay guys, I could be guessing here like for a while, and maybe I know, you know. Maybe I know, like as soon as I see it, maybe I'll know. So we'll just wait and see what Sean is going to continue with, rather than confusing it anymore, because you know he's about to continue on and continue to develop this app and explain what's going on here. So let's not you know just keep going down a rabbit hole and stop there. So we are at the end of our day today. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. As always, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me, sending love, hugs, you know, motivation and a bit of inspiration to get your head down and learn a bit of coding. Really valuable skill. Please do like and subscribe, because I love you guys, and thank you so much for coming to join me, Lily Code, on another episode of 100 Days of Code. Peace. Thank you. Bye.